In today's video, I want to share with you 50 ways I save money as a minimalist. These are all quite easy and simple things that I've been doing for years and have become more like habits that help me to spend less and save more, and together they really add up to significant savings every month. Now, of course, these are all very personal to me and my lifestyle, so they might not all apply to you and your situation, but I'm sure that there are still lots of valuable tips in here for everyone, and especially with just how expensive everything is getting, I feel like there's a lot of value in looking at ways that we can spend a bit less and save a bit more, while still also being able to splurge every once in a while on things that we really enjoy. So let's begin. Welcome back everyone, and if you're new here, this is a place where you can get tips and inspiration for living a simpler, happier and calmer life. Definitely hit subscribe down below if you haven't already to follow along, because I would love to see you again next week. I've broken down the 50 tips in this video into 5 categories: intentional shopping tips, lifestyle, everyday items, activities and entertainment, and food. So feel free to use the video chapters to kind of skip around if you want to watch or rewatch specific categories. Let's start with intentional shopping tips first, because to me, minimalism doesn't mean never buying anything new ever, or being super frugal to the point where I'm not spending any money on the things that I really love and enjoy. It mostly means just being very intentional about where my money goes, how I'm shopping, to make sure that I am not spending more than is necessary, and also to make sure that I make the most out of every euro that I do spend. Number 1, decreasing cost per use. The first thing I always try is to decrease the cost per use of the things that I do buy. So here's an example. Let's say I buy a pair of jeans for 60 euros. Then the more often I wear those jeans, the lower the cost per use will be. So if I only wear those jeans 10 times, the cost per use will be 6 euros. But if I wear those jeans 100 times, then the cost per use will be only 60 cents. Timing your purchases strategically and making use of sales. This, of course, doesn't mean shopping for things just because they're on sale, but more waiting with buying things that you were already going to buy until they're on sale. You can do this with bigger and smaller purchases. I do it all the time with our groceries. For example, this butter went on sale this week, buy one, get one free, and we get this all the time because we're Dutch, so we eat a lot of bread and a lot of margarine. These are 3 euros each, and we got 8, so we got 4 of them for free, which means that we saved 12 euros, and these will last us until the next time that they go on sale. Or with bigger purchases, if you're thinking about getting electronics, for example, see if you can wait until Black Friday comes around to potentially save hundreds of euros that you would have spent otherwise if you got it now. For example, we recently purchased a new stick vacuum, and we saved 250 euros on it because it was on sale, and we also got a cleaning station to go with it for free. So if you need new clothing items, see if you can wait until the next end of season sale, or if you want holiday decorations, see if you can get them the day after Christmas for only a fraction of the price. Number 3, shop around for your bills. Don't be afraid to call companies and ask for a better deal, or to shop around a bit. For example, we recently did some shopping around and we got a much better deal on our health insurance and also cheaper internet, and that saves us like tens of euros every month. So feel free to take a look at your bills every now and then and see if you can get a better deal either with that company or somewhere else. Number 4, no impulse buys. One of the best changes I have ever made to my life in general is to make a rule for myself to not buy things on impulse, and I have to wait at least a few days to think it over, and 4 out of 5 times I end up not really wanting it anymore after a few days have passed. Another addition here is to try and go without an item for a while if it breaks, instead of replacing it immediately. For example, recently our coffee grinder broke, and instead of immediately replacing it and buying a new coffee grinder, we thought of ways that we could live without it, and we now just buy pre-ground espresso coffee that we can use, and it's perfectly fine. It tastes really good, so we saved ourselves a new grinder to buy. So try out what life is like without that item first, and only get a new one if you really end up missing it. Number 5, First bills, then saving, then spending. Whenever we get paid, we first check to see how much money we have and how much our bills are going to be this month. Then the bills are already taken care of. Then we immediately set aside something for saving, so that is also set aside, and the money that is left we can spend however we like, but this way the bills and the savings have already been taken care of. Reviews and research. Especially with bigger purchases, get in the habit of doing research, reading reviews, comparing different products, different brands, to see which one fits your specific needs the best and gives you the best price-quality ratio. And then when you know which one you want, compare prices online to see where you can get it for the best price. Price matching in the stores. This one is kind of a part 2 to the previous one, but if you are in a store and you find a product that is cheaper somewhere else, like at a competitor, and you can show them, then they will often price match it for you because they want you as a customer right now. So before you buy something, before you go to the checkout or the cash register, see real quick if you can get it for a better price somewhere else and show them. Number 8, no more online shopping as a hobby. I completely stopped doing this just as a hobby for fun, and it really has helped me to kick my shopping habit to the curb. So try and make it easier for yourself by deleting any shopping apps that you have on your phone that make you want to go shopping, or unsubscribing from newsletters, things like that. Next up is everyday items, and number 9 is doing a use it up challenge. Whenever you find that you have a lot of a certain category of items, try to get your inventory back to 0 first. We do this, for example, all the time with food, trying to scrounge up some meals just by using what we have in the fridge or pantry. Or with beauty items, using up all of your lotions before you're allowed to get new ones, or drinking up all of your teas, or reading all your books, or using all your arts and crafts supplies. Whatever it is, try to get your inventory back to 0 first before you're allowed to get new ones. Number 10, scraping everything out. We Dutchies tend to be frugal by nature, and something that I think we probably all do is scraping everything out of something before we throw it away, making sure that we don't waste a single drop. So I always twist up the toothpaste until it's unrecognizable, getting everything out, or scraping the bottoms of jars, or cutting open packages to get everything out, to make sure that I'm getting the most out of the money that I spent on it. Number 11, making electronics last. Electronics are expensive, so I always try to make them last as long as possible before I replace them. Our TV is 8 years old, my phones usually last me around 5-6 years, my e-reader is 11 years old, and they all still work fine, so I'm just not replacing them until that changes. They try and tell us that we need a new phone every 2 years, but that's really not true. Number 12, one bag. I went from someone who was always buying new bags and purses and things like that to now only owning one of them per category. So I have one tiny purse that I bring with me if I'm only going out for a short while, one backpack if I want to bring a little bit more with me, like my water bottle, and then one big backpack that I use for traveling. And that's it. They happen to all be pink, but that happened by accident. It was not my plan. I have used these all the time for years and years, and there is hardly any wear and tear on them yet. So I will just continue using these instead of going out buying new bags and purses and stuff. Number 13, setting boundaries for your things. Try and set physical boundaries to how many of a certain category of items you're allowed to own. So for example, I have a small jewelry box, and I have a rule that all my jewelry needs to be able to fit in there comfortably. And if it starts to fill up, that means that I cannot buy anymore. Number 14, only owning one of a lot of things. Sunglasses, wallets, suitcases, watches. In my experience, we don't really need a ton of options there. So if you can just invest in one high quality one that you really love and just keep using that one, you can save yourself a lot of money. Number 15, taking good care of the things that I have. Just because we live in a throwaway society, that doesn't mean that we also have to live like that ourselves. So I just try to take good care of the things that I already have, and I try to make them last years and years instead of having to keep buying new ones. Number 16, line drying my laundry. We don't own a dryer, so I always line dry everything, and if you have a big family, I'm sure that this isn't that practical for you, but for us, I mean, it's just the two of us here. it's perfectly fine. Not using a dryer saves us on electricity costs because it is just free to dry them on a drying rack, but also it makes sure that my clothing and towels and sheets and everything else lasts a lot longer, so I don't have to replace it as often. Number 17, sell what you don't need. If there's something that you don't need anymore, try and see if you can sell it and get some money back for it. We've recently sold our robot vacuum after really thinking it over for a long time because it wasn't really fitting our vacuuming needs. It wasn't working out for us. It's a whole story. I even made a whole video about it for my patrons, but we made about half of the money back. Of course, it's always better to avoid making a purchasing mistake like that in the first place, but no one is perfect and I'm not either. So we all end up with things that we don't really need anymore from time to time, and if they're still like slightly valuable, then selling them is always my first go-to option. Let's talk about lifestyle, because these are some ways that I save money just kind of by how I'm living my life. The first thing is free exercising, because I don't pay money for exercising whatsoever. I only have a yoga mat and I just do my workouts at home. I put on a YouTube video, whatever I'm in the mood for. I do the workout, I take a shower, and I'm done. It saves me time, it saves me money, and yeah, I can highly recommend it. Obviously, things like going for a walk or going for a run are also really great budget-friendly options. Number 19, no gifts. My partner and I almost completely stopped giving each other gifts. So when it comes to our anniversary, the holidays, Valentine's, and most of the time our birthdays too, we don't give each other anything. We just found that most of the time we cannot really think of a thing that we might want or need, so it's pretty pointless to give each other an expensive gift just because it's your birthday or just because it's your anniversary. So we just choose to do something fun together instead. Number 20, cheap phones. When my phone needed an upgrade, I bought a cheaper model from the Samsung A line instead of the S line, which literally was hundreds of euros cheaper. And then I got a very cheap SIM-only subscription. So I paid 10 euros a month for it. And by making my phone last me years and years and years, and then only having to pay 10 euros a month, I'm spending way less money on my phone than I used to when I had like the fancier models that were like 50 euros a month or more. Being mindful of your electric bill, just making sure that you are turning down the lights when you leave a room, or making sure your dishwasher or laundry machine, washing machine is full before you do a load. Just basic simple things to make sure that you are not wasting electricity or water. For example, when I do a hair mask, that stuff needs to be left in your hair for about 10 minutes, so I will go out of the shower instead of letting it run. I will turn off the shower and get out of it, maybe do something else like read a book or something for 10 minutes, and then I get back in. Number 22, dressing for the season. I always try and make sure I'm dressing for the season. So this is the Netherlands, we don't really have air conditioning here, but even in the summer, of course, we use fans. So I try to make sure I'm not dressing too warmly and then having to use a fan because of that. Or in the winter, I am not exaggerating when I say that I often wear like 3 or 4 different layers of clothing and then a blanket and warm fuzzy slippers, and we will only use the heating if we're still cold then. Number 23, living smaller. We recently bought this apartment, and I'm not going to say it was cheap because it's not. We are dealing with a housing crisis and housing prices are just absolutely loco. But we did decide to go for a just modest, smallish apartment outside of the city center so that we wouldn't have to max out on our mortgage. Overhousing, which means paying too much for your housing in relation to your income, is a very big problem. So if you can avoid that, try to avoid it. I've made a whole video about why I love living smaller and what I learned from buying an apartment as a minimalist, so I will leave that right there and in the description box in case you're interested. Number 24, we don't own a car. We are very fortunate in the sense that we are able to get by without owning a car. We use public transportation and we simply just walk a lot, and by doing that we are able to go basically anywhere we want to go, and we spend about 40 to 50 euros a month on public transport. Sometimes it's definitely less convenient. For example, if we have to lug heavy groceries back to our apartment in our backpack, or if we have to go somewhere and it takes us like an hour to get there as opposed to driving for like 20 or 30 minutes. But in the end, this saves us hundreds of euros every month, so it is a sacrifice that we are more than willing to make. Number 25, no cheap or low quality clothing. The frugal Dutch person inside of me still is sometimes tempted to go for the really cheap option and get something at a cheap store, but from experience I've learned that cheap, low quality clothing items don't last, and in the end will only cost you more. They're also bad for the environment and just extremely problematic in so many ways, so I try to avoid them and go for higher quality pieces that will last me years and years and years, even if they're a bit more expensive initially. Number 26, becoming more low maintenance. I basically stopped doing any kind of beauty treatments, facials, massages. I stopped getting my hair dyed at the salon. I stopped getting my nails done. So absolutely no shame, of course, if you do enjoy some of these things, that's absolutely fine. This is just personal to me. But I find that I really enjoy my low maintenance beauty routine because it saves me both time and money. Saving things I want to ask for my birthday. If I know that I want something, but it can wait a while, usually what I'll do is write it down so that I have something to ask for when my birthday comes up, because there are still a few people that we do birthday gifts with, and they usually ask me, since they know I'm a minimalist, if there is anything that I want, and this way I can always ask for something. This year I got a cookbook, a new pair of yoga pants, and some really beautiful handmade Japanese teacups. Number 28, taking shopping breaks. Every once in a while, try doing a shopping break. So you could say for a week or one day a week or something that works for you, to try and not spend any money other than the absolute essentials. This is great for just breaking patterns and shifting priorities and just seeing that actually we really don't need as much as we may think we do. Number 29, making a low buy list at the start of a new year. Every year, I kind of just check back in with myself and reflect, and I make a list of things that I either don't want to buy next year or that I do want to do a low buy for. So like a max of 3 things, for example, and I do this with home stuff and plants and wardrobe items and all kinds of different categories. So it is just a great way to kind of reflect on the past year and make some goals for the next year to come. Number 30, no special outfits that can only be worn at very specific occasions. I basically don't really have any special occasions clothing, also just because I don't really have the kind of life where I often go to events and things like that. If I did, I think I would just buy 1 or 2 special occasions outfits and just kind of alternate between the two. Number 31, not shopping for image. Something that minimalism can really help us with is to differentiate between things that we want to buy for ourselves or just because we think that they'll have value for us, or that we want to buy just to present a kind of image of success or we have it all together. Most of what I bought when I was younger was just to try and impress my friends and my classmates, and also just now that I've gotten a bit older, I honestly couldn't care less about image. I'm just 100% content with how my life is now, and I'm not trying to make it look like anything else. So that really has helped me to save a lot of money because I am buying a lot fewer things than I used to. Number 32, knowing what you don't like. Same with this one. For example, I used to kind of worry sometimes that I might be missing out by not really going out and partying and participating in the nightlife and stuff, but now I know that I wasn't missing out because it's not something that I really find enjoyable or valuable. So by knowing what we don't like and not feeling like we have to do that or buy those things anyway, we can save a lot of money because those things tend to be quite expensive. Number 33, gratitude. And definitely gratitude is a major one because, even with minimalism and decluttering as much as we have and now owning a lot fewer items than we used to, I'm feeling more content than ever. So by focusing on what I do have and really being grateful for that, I am much less likely to go out and look for something to buy or to add to my life because I know that I already have everything that I need. So gratitude just brings with it a lot of happiness and fulfillment for me. Alright, let's talk activities and entertainment. The first way that we try to save money is by always traveling out of season. This is also possible because we don't have kids, so we're not tied to any school vacations. And it's something that I'm very happy with because traveling out of season is always hundreds of euros cheaper. And it's also way less crowded with tourists when you do go. Whether we go for a trip in our own country within the Netherlands or we go abroad, we always try to go either in like May or September, October, and usually the weather is also much more friendly then, which is great for me because I cannot handle warm weather. So it just makes for a whole nicer and more enjoyable traveling experience overall. Number 35, the €1 per hour rule. This is a little rule that I came up with and it's not very strict. It's more like a guideline for me to check if I'm getting enough value out of something to justify the price. So with entertainment, let's say you pay €10 a month or $10 a month for Spotify, then I want to make sure that I'm using it at least 10 hours a month. And if it is much lower than that, then I will probably cancel it. Books are also a really good one here, or things like Netflix. If you're paying $12 a month for your Netflix, and if you're only using it like 2 or 3 hours a month, then I would say it's not really worth it. Number 36, bringing food and water with me. Recently, the prices of restaurants and cafes have gone up again, and to be honest, it's kind of crossed the threshold to where I still think that going out to eat is worth it, unless it is like a really special experience or the kind of food that I don't know how to make myself. So we have drastically cut our going out to eat budget by simply just bringing food and water with us when we go out. We'll just sit on a bench somewhere and eat our lunch. And if I feel like I really need to pee or I need like a break from the crowds, sometimes we'll go in a cafe and just order a cup of tea or something. But every time we don't go out for lunch, this saves us like 40 euros every time. Number 37, no starters or desserts. When we do go out to eat, usually we will skip the starters and the desserts, and this can easily save you a lot of money on your bill. And also I find that the portion sizes are usually already quite big, so I also like that I'm not feeling like overly stuffed or bloated after a meal. Number 38, no juices, smoothies, or cocktails. Something else that we usually do not order is juices, smoothies, cocktails, or in our case, mocktails, because these kinds of drinks are very expensive. Smoothies can easily go for like 8 euros now, and mocktails are like 10 or more. So if you both order 2 drinks and you just get tea or something, that's easily like 15 euros saved right there. Number 39, auditing streaming services regularly. Regularly is a very difficult word to pronounce for me. We audit our streaming services frequently, and if we are not really finding anything that good on there anymore, we will cancel it. And if there's like a specific show or movie that we want to watch, or like the next season of something that we really like, we usually just get the streaming services for a month or 2, watch what we want to watch, and then cancel it again. Number 40, family plans. Another great way to save some money is to see if the subscription services that you are using offer family plans. For example, we do this with our Duolingo and with our Spotify, and it's pretty significant savings every month. You could also check with your phone company to see if they offer something. For example, we get a discount on our internet because it is on the same plan as our phone. Number 41, watching movies at home. If you really love watching movies in the cinema or the theaters, definitely go for it. I understand it's a different experience. For me personally, I don't really like the theaters. I just find it to be too much, like too loud, too much going on. So I usually wait until the movies are out of the theaters, and then we rent them through some kind of like home cinema app for only a fraction of the price. Number 42, buying video games on sale. My partner and I love playing video games, but we almost never buy them full price. And the way that we play video games is actually quite affordable. We have a PlayStation Plus subscription that we always get with a discount on Black Friday. And there are so many amazing free games that you can play if you have that subscription. So we just finished the Mass Effect trilogy, and now we are playing Sackboy. Another thing that we do with games is if we know that we only want to play the game through once, Then we buy it on disc and then we can sell it back to the same store after we are done with it for store credit. And usually we get around like half of what we paid for it back in store credit that we can then use to purchase the next game that we can also sell back to the store, etc. Lastly, let's talk about the category for food and groceries. First thing is that we stopped buying junk food and unhealthy snacks for the home with our weekly groceries, and this is mostly because of health reasons that we started doing that, and I still absolutely love it. I can recommend it to anyone. But I've also noticed that it does save us a bit of money every time we go grocery shopping, because those like ready-made snacks are usually a bit more expensive than the food that you can make from scratch yourself. So I think this saves us around 15 to 20 euros a week. Being vegan doesn't mean that your groceries will always be more expensive. It really depends on how you're shopping. In general, the vegan alternatives to like normal foods tend to be a bit more expensive, but like the staple foods, things like, you know, fruits and veggies and beans and legumes and grains and rice and things like that are not. So skipping the junk food and the snacks really helps. Freezing and refrigerating things. Something else we do to try and prevent food waste is we freeze and refrigerate a lot of things, if that means that we can keep them fresh longer. So for example, bread here is always very fresh and it only stays like that for like 1 or 2 days. After that it goes stale and we don't want to throw away stale bread, so we always freeze it immediately after we buy it and then just defrost like a couple of slices before we want to eat them, which takes like 10 minutes. We also refrigerate certain things that you are technically maybe not supposed to, or you don't have to, like potatoes and onions and things like that. I've tried both ways and I noticed that they just stay fresh so much longer if I keep them in the fridge. So that is what I'll do. Number 45, being satisfied with simple, budget-friendly meals. Another big way that we save money on our groceries is just by being satisfied with really simple, budget-friendly meals most of the time. I do like cooking, so maybe like twice a week, for example, I will make something that is a little bit more elaborate. Like this week we had Thai curry noodle soup. Last week we had kind of like a risotto made with orzo. So then I'll do that, but the other days I'll just make something really simple. I just kind of stopped making the kinds of recipes that take like 15 or 20 ingredients and have all of these like fresh herb toppings and things like that, because yes, it's nice and it looks nice, but it's also really expensive. So usually I just make something really simple. Number 46, meal planning. A great way to save money and also prevent food waste. We can walk to the grocery store here, so we usually plan our meals for like 4 days. And it really helps because let's say that you have some kind of recipe that takes like half a head of cauliflower, then you know that the other days you can try and come up with a recipe that you can use up the other half. So instead of just going to the store and grabbing a bunch of random ingredients, we actually plan for it. We make sure that we will use all of the ingredients up. We make a list and then we go shopping. Checking if generic store brands can work too. Sometimes the name brand of a certain product is just better. For example, with us, we always get our soy milk from Alpro because I really prefer those. But with many products, the generic store brand also is just as good. And especially with things like laundry detergent or dish pods, things like that, they usually also just work if you get the generic brand, and it can save you like 50% of the cost. So if we have a product that we like and we notice that there is also like a generic store brand version, we will always give that a try because a lot of the times it's just as good and we can just buy that one. Number 48, always going food shopping with a list. And if you're the type of person who likes to kind of walk around the store and see what's new and try out different things like me, then just do what I do. I have a rule that I'm allowed to get everything on the list plus 2 items. So if I see something that I'm also curious about, I am allowed to get 2 of those, 2 like different ones to try, but that's it. Also, bonus tip, always make sure you eat before you go grocery shopping, because if you go shopping on an empty stomach, all of this is just going to fly out the window. Saying no to pre-cut foods. Definitely this depends on your lifestyle. Maybe for you, like the time savings and the convenience is worth it. For us, we tend to go for things that are not like pre-cut or pre-made most of the time. For example, 500 grams of string beans here go for $1.69, whereas 400 grams of pre-cut string beans cost $2.29. So for 500 grams, that would come down to $2.86 instead of $1.69. Or instead of buying tempeh that is already marinated, we just buy a simple block of tempeh and marinate it ourselves, which is a lot cheaper. Number 50, making your meals more filling. Also, it really helps if you can make sure that your meals are nourishing and filling and satisfying, because if they are, then you'll be less prone to snacking during the day and you will need less groceries overall. We always try to include a good plant-based protein source and lots of vegetables for the fiber, and using whole grain pasta instead of white pasta, brown rice instead of white rice, things like that. And that really helps to keep us full for much longer. Another really helpful thing that you can do to make your meals more filling is to eat them without distractions and really pay attention, because I've learned that you can actually feel up to 50% more full after a meal if you ate it with awareness instead of eating it like in front of the TV or being on your phone. So we always eat our meals without distractions. Definitely share in the comments. I'm very curious, what is your best way to save some money? Maybe something I haven't mentioned in the video yet. Please leave those in the comments down below. And as always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all again next week. Bye bye. This is random, but have you heard of grain coffee or chicory coffee? It is a drink made from grains and dried fruits and stuff, and it's completely natural and caffeine free. We've been drinking it with oat milk, and it's awesome.